Thank you for coming. I was actually going to start with something else. I was going to confront you, Okwui, with a statement made by one of the designers slash artists slash musicians slash filmmakers slash whatever you want to call him that I met in Nairobi, Jim Chuchu, who said, Africa is a trend right now, and he adds, which is a terrible thing to say, but it is. I did ask you that question once already, and you gave me a very interesting answer.
I don't know if I quite remember what my answer was.
I can remind you.
In the kind of litany of things that I may have said. But let me begin first by, saying thank you, Amelie, and to Mathieu for inviting me to join your conversation and letting me listen in, giving me the opportunity to learn about the way you think about design, its relevance in the current context of what one might call the global permanent transition, if you will. And I've learned a lot from it. And to the question about that Africa is a trend, I think the question is, when has it never been a trend? I think we seem to, if I recall my response, that it's a kind of cyclical thing in which Africa sort of appears and disappears. It's kind of a kind of curve, and which beginning at the turn of the 20th century, it was a rage that had its own particular resonance, within the work of the so-called European historical avant-garde. And of course, we've lived through moments of transition of Africa in relation to its potential and the potential of the post-colonial moment that has also bequeathed us with a number of design initiatives, some of them white elephants, many of which are now being rediscovered in terms of the very language of modern architecture, such as the exhibition you currently have. And I'm very gratified to see these two exhibitions next to each other. So the question is, why is it that a continent of this incredible scope and depth, become a trend? And I can understand from Jimmy Chuchu's position why he may be ambivalent about that. Because there is something a little bit, I should not say paternalistic about making it a trend, because I think that, there's a backdrop of our own desires that are projected onto it. And I must tell you that, we've lived through many of these moments, but I hope that the trend is really finally here to stay.
I do agree. Interestingly, you spoke about the Cubists and, Gauguin and the early modernists who were inspired by Africa, and when Africa was a trend once already. And I think the parallel that we can see here is that these are moments of change. And I think it is quite interesting that Africa seems to rise whenever Europe and maybe America are kind of insecure in their dead certainties, and that in the moment when they come to realize that their model doesn't work, they keep looking at Africa. Do you agree?
Well, I think there are many points of reference. We can always learn from many references, and I think it's important not to fetishize Africa as a locus of some kind of deep knowledge in this sense. I mean, I think there are things to learn from Africa. There are things to also to unlearn from Africa. But I think the important thing is really to, build into our own relationship to whatever we consider Africa to be, a more self-critical position. And Africa is always a foil for self-invention. And I suppose it's also a foil that has a certain kind of therapeutic dimension, for many people from the West, not just simply a place to learn. There's a kind of therapeutic dimension.